Well, I mean, that's kind of the question. Where is this going? And we're in the very infancy of AI supercomputing, the ability of governments to actually control their populations at the level of the individual in a way that no government has ever been capable of doing. And so, if you marry bad intent to increase capacity for repression, you could wind up with an open air prison camp the size of a continent very quickly.
If you live in the Soviet Union, so the KGB can't follow you around all the time. They just don't have enough agents.
Right. They tried, but
they try, but you have 200 million Soviet citizens. They don't have 200 million agents. Now, you can monitor everybody all the time. You don't need human agents or analysts. You have the computers, smartphones, cameras, drones, microphones everywhere, and you have the AIs analyzing all the ocean of information.
Hey guys, today we are looking at a clip featuring Tucker Carlson and Eva Vlaardingerbroek. We also had a special guest appearance there by our favorite supervillain, Yuval Noah Harari. In this clip, Eva Vlaardingerbroek and Tucker Carlson are going to touch base on central bank digital currencies and some other hot topics. Let's go ahead and we'll get into the clip.
Yeah. That's exactly what is happening now to just a few individuals, but we don't know how fast this will happen to the entire continent. Maybe you guys have heard of the chat control proposal, right? That the EU wanted to enforce, which got shut down, but now they're trying it through another backdoor again. They want to basically be able to read all of our messages under the guise of preventing, child pornography, et cetera, from being spread. So they want to use, it's funny.
They're really worried about
up with the most.
Epstein's friends are really worried about child pornography. Okay.
Right. So, but AI is going to be used to do that. They are going to be scanning our messages to see if any of that material is being spread, or at least that's what they say. But it means that these unelected bureaucrats are reading all of your messages, essentially, have access to all of your messages. And I don't know when people are going to wake up to all of these pretexts, right, that are always being given. Just like Keir Starmer last week said that he wanted to ban X because of women's safety concerns, because Grok was making those bikini edits. Yeah, women's safety. But I mean, do we have to talk to the man about the Rotherham rapes and stuff? It's honestly, it's laughable, but it has real life consequences for real life people. And I think what you said about Europe turning into an open air prison is just right. That's exactly what is happening. But how do you escape that? That's the question that we all have. How do you unelect people that you've never elected in the first place? How do you get your rights back when it's just presented to you that someone has taken them away from you and they've granted themselves that power? Because that is exactly what happens here. And people feel defenseless in the face of it.
Eva makes a point here that I think more people should sit with for just a second. At what point do we stop pretending that we don't recognize the pretext being handed to us? These technologies, they're always sold as convenient. They're always framed as tools for connection, efficiency, or economic growth. But running in parallel, always, at the base layer, there are surveillance and security applications built right in. And I think it's at least plausible that in most of these cases, those uses, they come first. The consumer rollout actually comes later. The economy just becomes sort of the distribution mechanism that gets everyone voluntarily plugged into the surveillance system. The real trick isn't what these systems do today, it's how little has to change for them to do something else tomorrow. A software update, a policy shift, a flip switch. The same phone that you use to text can track your movement. The same Wi-Fi that streams Netflix can map your physical behavior inside your home down to the resolution of a millimeter. The same platforms that we treat as social spaces, those can be repurposed to score, rank, or restrict people all along the guidelines of the social credit system. And none of this requires a new tech. It just requires permission, and we are not the ones who provide the permission. The ones who provide the permission are operating behind closed doors. Their identities are obscured from us, and there's no feedback loop. There's no reciprocal action that we can take to hold them accountable for the permissions they either grant or deny without our consent. So the uncomfortable question is this: if the infrastructure already exists, then when? Because it's not really a question of if at this point, it is merely a question of when they will switch those permissions. We've seen it over and over again, so we know it's coming. So why aren't we asking ourselves that question and addressing it from a proactive stance rather than reactively?
So who is them? I mean, why? So clearly there is a very well organized, very well funded effort to eliminate the white population of Europe. I mean, because it is being eliminated and you're not allowed to notice it, you'll be punished by police and courts you pay for if you notice what's happening to your ancestors' homeland. So that's all just true.
Yeah.
What?
That's right.
Like, who is pushing this?
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
It's the question of all questions, right? But it seems that all of these leaders that we have, be it Keir Starmer, be it Ursula von der Leyen, be it Merz in Germany, be it Macron, they all follow the same playbook. They all say the same things, literally post the same things, in their communications to the outside world. They might focus on slightly different subjects here and there, but the agenda is the same everywhere. And it's the erosion, essentially, of our borders, of our nation states, of our heritages. Right. I don't have to tell you or your audience that. We all know it. The question is, who's behind it? Honestly, I don't know. I can't answer that question. But what I can tell you is that the people who are rolling out these agendas are doing it out in the open, in front of our faces, and they keep getting reelected. So I have made it my mission, at least, to talk about those people and target them specifically, because they are the ones that are in front of us, rolling this out over and over and over again. But it's very difficult to say.
So I don't know that much about Merz. I don't know Macron. His reputation is smart, is clever, and cunning, skilled politically. But I know a fair amount about Keir Starmer, and you will never convince me, at gunpoint even, that Keir Starmer is making independent decisions about the future of Britain. Just, you can't convince me of that. He's not adequate as a leader of a nation. He just doesn't have the basic qualities. He is taking orders. That could not be clearer, and I think it's clear to the British population. But you don't know who's giving those orders.
No, I mean, I don't know who's giving those orders. I think if we would know, it would be easier to stop this from happening, right? But that is, I think, part of the agenda, is that we don't exactly quite know who's behind this. Of course, we're fighting a very bureaucratic system also in Europe. There are, in the European Union, like tons of high government officials whom we don't even know by name, yet have billions and billions of euros at their disposal to roll out an agenda that goes against our interests, that literally wants to replace us, is crumbling our economy, and is essentially just destroying this continent. So, I mean, I've heard people say before that this is all part of fifth generation warfare, that it's part of the game, that you don't know exactly who your enemy is. And I think they want to keep it that way. But once again, it doesn't stop us from saying these people that we do see on television every day are bad, they're evil.
Yes, that's correct.
And we need them out of office, because that gives people at least, some sort of action that they can take, even though already that is difficult. And that's something that I hate to say, but in Europe, the majority still of your average Dutchman, your average Frenchman is not even aware of that. So we have a lot of work to do in that respect.
I think you make a really wise point. It doesn't matter whether they're the prison guard or the warden. They're still participating in an indefensible system, hurting and killing people, and that's evil. So, I guess that's all we really need to know. But it is frustrating when you see a coordinated effort like the one underway to eliminate white people, it's the biggest thing that's happened
Very, and
in our
especially if you
lifetimes.
can't speak about it.
Right.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that's happened in our lifetime. And especially if you can't speak about it without running the risk of being thrown in jail.
Right.
Might I add that to what I just told you, right? And let's say in addition to the answers that I'm giving you here, is that we in Europe run the risk of being thrown in jail when we talk about this too liberally. I want the American audience to understand that there are certain things that we really cannot say. So, that is very different. There is no First Amendment here, and we definitely do not have a Second Amendment to support it. So that makes our situation, considerably different, especially for political commentators, journalists.
Yes.
It is really more challenging, let's say, especially when you have a family that you want to protect as well.
It seems to me the final piece of the control grid would be digital currencies, because at that point, of course, they can starve you to death if you get out of line.
Yes.
How long before that arrives?
Not long. The European Union is working on their digital euro, has been for a while, and I think they're planning to roll it out this year, actually, or maybe beginning of 2027. So once that hits, same story, of course. They say that it's all voluntary, that you don't have to use it, but it's just a matter of time till they do. We see through the stories. But yes, that is, of course, going to be the final instrument that they can use to control the entire population. But as I said, they're already freezing the bank accounts of people who they deem to be benefiting Russia, right? With giving their opinion, journalists who are writing about their opinions concerning the conflict. So they don't necessarily need CBDCs to do incredibly unlawful things and say that they do it in order to protect stability and democracy.
Well, Tucker and Eva came so close to saying the quiet part out loud. You could tell they were noticing something. They were picking up on some kind of pattern, but, well, I guess just like the rest of us, couldn't quite put those final pieces in place. Realistically, I get it. I get where they're coming from. They've got a lot to lose, and we've seen from history over and over again that if you oppose these people, they will make no end in their effort to destroy you root and stem. And I honestly think that that's what we're seeing with Europe. I think that Europe, what's happening is a long-term revenge plan against a certain empire that used to exist. And there's a grudge against that empire, and we are the descendants of that empire, and they are dismantling us piece by piece as slowly and deliberately as possible. I hope you enjoyed these clips and the commentary as well. If you did like this and your curiosity was sparked by the commentary about parallel structures between commercial rollouts for technology and more spyware and military purposes, go and check out the video that I've linked in the end. I named 20 names specifically in that, and it is heavily under the ban of shadow, so you may enjoy it. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons and sharing this video to help the channel grow.
We want to know what you're reading now.
What I'm reading?
Yeah.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome. Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one.